Why is the quality most important? I'm stating that like it's a fact. So imagine in a marketing funnel, if I put nothing but perfect, ideal customers into the top. Every single visitor is a perfect person who has exactly the problems that you solve, who uses the language that you use on the homepage, who already has the budget allocated that is big enough to fit your pricing page, right? But what happened is you get a lot of conversions. Even if your site isn't that good, even if your sales team's not that capable, whatever, they'll just take, we call them order-taking salespeople. They'll just take the orders. The quality was very high. Then even if every other step in the funnel was poor, you would still do really well. Good quality means like you can't help but win.
Keep building podcasts with Matt Cressman. Building authority, LinkedIn's my strategy. I be overseas, closing deals with ease. Network growth's the key. You can only be you, can't replicate my view. Scale your revenue, pipeline breaking through. Success is all I see. Keep building, go. Keep building,
All right, so welcome everybody to the live stream today. I'm excited that you're here. You're here because I'm guessing you're wanting to grow, you're wanting to learn, you're wanting to grow your business, yourself, and all of the things, but you're probably in SaaS. That's also my guess. I love building the SaaS community and connecting with other leaders. There's so much disruption happening in SaaS, right now. I feel like SaaS is kind of like the apex of, where all of this AI stuff is happening. So it's an interesting time right now, but you're here because you're looking to grow and learn. And if you're like me, I value learning from the right people. I was just telling my wife this, it's just like life. And in our marriage, I'm like, hey babe, you know what? I want to have a successful marriage. You do too. Let's learn from people that have been there, done that. Cause I'm not going to listen to, some rookies, right? So same thing in your business. Like I'm going to listen to people that have been there, done that and have the t-shirt. And the t-shirt doesn't have too many holes in it, like they don't have burn marks on themselves. They've actually like survived the war, the battles, and they're coming out better on the other side. So I am the founder, just to kind of set the stage. Some of you may not know me. Matt Kretzman, I'm the founder of Lead Storm AI, Stormbreaker Digital. I'm kind of the de facto LinkedIn guy for companies, whether you're a SaaS founder, solopreneur, or a coach consultant. If you're in a high-touch relationship, B2B focused, LinkedIn should be a part of your strategy. And I've been doing that for 6 years. Amazing. I never thought that this would be my career, but it's one of many things that I really enjoy doing. So Lead Storm AI, Stormbreaker Digital. And today we're diving into a topic that's critical for every founder, marketer, and operator who wants to stop spinning their wheels and start making meaningful exponential progress. So I'm honored to be joined by someone who embodies that mindset, Jason Cohen. Jason is the founder of WP Engine, one of the most successful WordPress hosting companies in the world. When we were building WordPress websites, I was using WP Engine, and we built a lot of stuff in WP Engine. And here I am today, sitting down with the guy that built the thing. He's a prolific thinker and writer on business strategy. His blog, A Smart Bear, has been read by millions for its razor sharp insights. Hey, listen, a lot of people.
It is millions.
Right? It is
millions. I checked the other day. Last year there was 1 million unique, so that's millions.
That's legit. 1 million uniques.
The average time on site for literally just the dragging everything. The average time on site is 4.5 minutes. That's not bad for 100% of the traffic that ever hits it, right? So
that's not bad.
Millions is fair.
It's fair. Maybe it's billions. Maybe by the end of your life,
Yeah.
And the interesting thing we're going to talk about, I think this is going to be one of the things we talk about today, in relation to like traffic and stuff, but time on site is obviously like a really important metric, for webs, right? Yeah, one of, right? But
it could be.
It could be. We'll find out.
It could be people are confused and it's taking them too long to find something.
This is true.
You got to be careful about metrics. They tell you something, but you have to be very careful what you extract from that.
Yeah, every good marketer knows how to spin the metrics in the right way.
Yeah. If you're trying to get to the truth, spin's not useful.
This is true. Yeah, but business leverage points. So I was struck, and again, for those of you that are watching this, like Jason and we've been a part of SaaS Talk for a number of years, probably Jason longer than me. And I've just thoroughly loved being plugged into the community. And we were sitting down in the speakers lounge, just chatting in a little lunch table. And the topic kind of kicked off on business leverage points and traffic and top of funnel and all of this stuff. And what I've always just admired about you, Jason, I love that you're a deep thinker. I really, really enjoy conversations with people that analyze it, pull it apart, and try to interpret the data in a way that the average person can understand. So I think we're going to cover some topics today about like why your funnel quality might be sabotaging your product, how pricing affects not just revenue, but positioning, maybe why your churn rate might be quietly killing your growth, even if you're adding customers, all of these things around business leverage points. But thank you for joining me, Jason.
Yeah, what I found is that there are a few special areas in a business where small changes in those areas have a large impact on something you care about, like revenue or profit, whether you have great employees, whether customers stay, these kind of really important things.
Yeah.
Most are not. Most things you do are incremental. They may have an impact that you may not even be able to measure it, but maybe in total they do. Most stuff is just, you just grind it out and you get some kind of, possibly unmeasurable benefit. But there's a couple of areas where that's not true, where it magnifies or multiplies the effort. So those are, and there's not many of them. Like most things are not like that. And so if you can find which ones those are, that's usually worth a whole lot of your time or prioritization. You can imagine spending 50% of your time, for example, on the stuff you have to do, but 50% on these things. Not that they're easy, they're not. But if we change them a little bit, they have a big impact. Another nice thing about them is you don't have to be perfect. Like if a small change to the positive makes a large impact, they don't have to be perfect for it to be impactful. So that's great because being perfect is hard. And so, and maybe not even a good use, maybe not even a good ROI, but changing it somewhat is a really good ROI. And so those are really interesting.
Yeah,
so ideally, you would find these things empirically, and ideally, you'd have some incredible mathematical model of the whole company. Every important thing would be a number, which of course it's not in reality. But imagine if it were, and then you'd have this incredible model, and it'd all be right with all the things pointing at all the other things and all the crazy cycles and things that happen. And then you could use sensitivity analysis or some other math to say, oh, look, if I change this part, then I get a big change in revenue or profit or something like that. And then that's what they would be. And you would go focus on that. That would be smart. So if you could, you would do that. But you can't. And actually, there's a couple of really special companies like Amazon where they kind of do. And it's amazing what they're able to understand and invest in. Okay. But for the 99.999% of us where that's not the case, still that they're there. And what I found is that there's a couple of areas, you listed some of them, where very, very typically it's one of these special multipliers or leverage points where a little change has a big impact. So if we say, look, it's usually this. So this is a pretty good idea. Like if you're wondering, how do I change my business a lot? These are some pretty smart areas to try, or at least try one of them. The other thing I find is that they're often hidden in plain sight, by which I mean, like you said, funnel. So let's take that marketing funnel. So you think you have a handle on the marketing funnel. You say, I know what it is. Traffic comes in the top. Hopefully customers come out the bottom. There's these different steps in the funnel. I will measure the conversion rate of each step. And wherever I see opportunity, whichever step I think I can affect, maybe with A/B testing or whatever, I will do that and I'll measure it and I'll try to do that. And maybe whichever step is the worst in terms of people falling out, that's the one I can get them, and so you're like, look, I get it. I get a marketing funnel. There's nothing more to see here. But that's not actually, none of those steps I just said are the most important part of the funnel. None of those change the quality of what comes out of the funnel the most. So you look at the funnel and you think you get it, but you don't. So it's hidden in the sense that it's like I'm looking at this funnel and I don't get it. And here's how you can see what this hidden thing is. And you said it was the quality of the stuff coming into the top of the funnel, like traffic coming to the top of the marketing funnel, the quality of applicants coming to the top of a hiring funnel, the quality of startups coming to the top of an angel investors funnel. There's a lot of funnels in the world. Product ideas that come in the top of the product. There's a lot of funnels. Why is the quality most important? I'm stating that like it's a fact, but I better justify that. So, so imagine in a marketing funnel, if I put nothing but perfect, ideal customers into the top. Every single visitor is a perfect person who has exactly the problems that you solve, who uses the language that you use on the homepage, who already has the budget allocated that is big enough to fit your pricing page, right? And just imagine it's the perfect customer.
Perfect fit.
But what happened is you get a lot of conversions. Even if your site isn't that good, Even if even if your sales team, if it's leads, even if your sales team's not that capable, whatever, they'll just take. We call them order taking salespeople. They'll just take the orders because they're already ready to go, right? So if the lead quality or if the quality was very high, then even if every other step in the funnel was poor, you would still do really well. Now, so good quality means like you can't help but win. Now, let's take the other end of the extreme. Let's say I put nothing but shit traffic at the top.
Yeah.
Well, they don't want to buy. Like, it doesn't matter how good your A/B tests are and your language and your like. This isn't the right people. You're not going to convert very many. You never are. No matter how good all those steps are, you're just not. It's not going to happen. So if you take a step back, what did we just learn? High quality at the top means I succeed no matter what, and low quality means I fail no matter what.
Yep.
No, wait, we just said no matter what both times. Like the lead quality or the funnel, the top of funnel quality determined our success or failure, regardless what the other steps did. Now, I don't mean to say the other steps are not important. I'm not saying that, right? I'm not saying that they're not useful, they're not important. I'm not saying that. What I'm doing is emphasizing how important the quality at the top is. It's the most important. That's what I'm saying. Not that they're unimportant, but this is the most important. But it wasn't part of the normal funnel discussion, because the normal funnel discussion is here's all our steps, here's all our conversion rates. How do we make it go up? Make rate go up. But like you never said the quality at the top. You're not even measuring the quality at the top probably. So this is what I mean by the quality at the top is this leverage or multiplier of power.
Yes.
But you didn't see it because you thought, I understand the funnel math. Leave me alone. And so you didn't see it. That's why it's hidden and a multiplier, hidden and a point of leverage. And actually, it's even worse than that in marketing, which of course we can get into. It's even worse than what I just said, which is actually quite interesting. But this is common across, but this general point is common across all these funnels, hiring funnels, product idea funnels, investment funnels, if you're into that sort of thing. In general, this is true. This is generally true of funnels, and we're not usually paying attention to that.
You're totally right. I chuckle when companies think, look, I run a marketing company. Like, clients or companies think like it's so linear, right? It's absolutely linear. Like, why aren't we able to like accurately measure and do what you're saying? Like, essentially do what you're saying. Like, why can't we convert all of our traffic, or why can't we understand, the buyers, like what stage, like there's so many variables. So so here's the question, like, is there a way, or how would you, and this is probably the article, how would you focus on that top of the funnel, that traffic?
Yeah. How do you do it?
How do you do it? How do you do it?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously to focus, the first thing is you say, wow, we should improve that. We should measure it somehow. Like, I don't know, but let me give you some specific ways to do this, because it's not obvious. In fact, it's especially hard because it's when you know the least about the traffic. Like, it's the most anonymous. You have the least data about it, right? Is totally. Like before it even shows up. Like, it's not even in your analytics software, even if it's trivial. So like, what do you do? So it is hard. So here's some really specific things you can do. The first thing is you want to have the people who are about to come to the website to self-filter the good versus, the useful traffic versus not traffic before they show up. So how would you do that? By having really pointed, crazy, specific messaging in whatever you're bringing them into. It's an advertisement or it's social media, like whatever the thingy is that you're doing, the marketing that you're doing to bring them in, whatever that is. Because usually advertisers are asking, what hook is most likely to get people to click this ad?
Correct.
Right? I want click-through rates to go up. So whatever makes people click the ad, that's what I want to do. That's the normal mentality.
Yep.
But when you think about quality, you realize I only want the right people to click the ad, which means I am not optimizing for maximum click-through rate. See, this is different.
Yes,
I want
very different.
clicks from the right people, which means I need hooks that cause the right people to click more because I'm like so specifically talking to them.
Yes.
And also have the bad people go, this is not for me, and not click. That second part, and also reject the other people, repel the other people.
Yes.
That's not usually what you're thinking, but that's what you do if you want quality. So like a great example is if you're selling a product to engineers, like technicals, software engineers, let's say, you should use crazy software engineer talk in the ad. It should like use some inside joke and whatever. It's just crap. So software engineers will be like, oh, this is for me. This feels like it's for me. Obviously, they're not literally thinking that, but right. This feels like something that's that's for me. And other people do not think that and do not click the ad. Correct. That's what we want. We don't want you. We want you to go, what the hell, and not click. That's what we want. One of the best examples of this is Twilio. Twilio used to have these billboards that just said, ask your developer. That's all it says, right? So it's like, what, so, okay. So that's the kind of thing that's really, the developers are like, yeah, we're in charge. It's very clear what's going on there. Right. So this notion of that also, besides commiseration with the person, you could put things that people consider dangerous, like putting the price right there. But won't that cause people not to click? Yeah. If they don't have the budget, but if they don't have the budget, they shouldn't come.
Yeah.
Right. So price or for teams of 100 or more, you might say, oh, I only have a team of 10. I won't click. Or a certain vertical, like there's different kinds of qualifiers you could put in there. So all this advice goes under this one category of self-filtering, putting this pointed kind of a hook where you're thinking about filtering in the hook in the first place. That's just one idea. I can give you more.
Yeah. Please do. And I imagine like in the interim, right? Like as you kind of pivot your strategy and your marketing creative and stuff like that towards the style of marketing that you're talking about, like numbers are going to change, and they may not change in the way that you want.
No,
at least
again, click-through rates will go down.
Yeah.
Oh,
right. I'm sure people are like pulling the fire alarm. Like, what's happening? Wait.
But what should go up? Things like conversion from the homepage to anything else, or conversion from the landing page they get to, even sales, which is what we wanted anyway. So it's not that it's possible to measure; it's just a little trickier. And actually, that's my second thing is to widen or deepen, I should say, what you consider the conversion rate. What I mean is, normally, again, you think of the ad is the click-through rate. That's my conversion. The higher the click-through rate, the better. But again, that's not really measuring quality. If you could move that one step forward and say, well, the ad, I'm going to consider the ad a success or converted if they click, and then also click past the landing page that they hit up. Then I'll count it. Well, then you'd be optimizing the ads for a better, deeper part of the funnel where they're a little bit more engaged and real. So ads that got a lot of clicks but not other engagement, i.e. bad traffic, those ads would not perform well according to your conversion. Now, we all know this. That's in a lot of these ad software has these kind of things. So really, maybe this is motivation to really do it. And then the question is, how deep can you go? Like the ideal is it goes all the way to sale. And you ask, how many sales does this ad make? That would be ideal, all the way to the end of the funnel. Now, in some cases, you might be able to do that. Like if it's a impulse buy and it's in a one session buy and all that, you might be able to do that. In other cases, it's too hard and you can't. Understood. We're just talking about a vision statement. What's the ideal? The ideal is it's measuring sales. And so in practice, the real question would be, how far down the funnel can I push my definition of a conversion or an ad success so that I'm measuring my ads as best as I can, with the ideal being a sale, right? And then there's another nice thing, because you're like, oh my gosh, but that's going to be so few conversions. And I would say, yes, but imagine how much you can pay for each one of those conversions.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah,
so like I normally think like, ooh, 50 cents a click, $1 a click. Yikes. That's a lot. Wait a minute. I can spend $50, $100, $200 per conversion. Of course. So I'll have fewer of them, et cetera, et cetera. But if I find ads which do that, I can spend crap tons of money on those ads. So yes, that's harder in one way, but okay. So there's different things. It's multi-attribution is a problem. When buyers and users are disconnected, that's a problem. Like there's a lot of challenges. I'm not saying, again, these are not easy. Never said this was easy. Just saying like if we can move it a little bit though, it helps a lot. So while it's not easy, it's worth some. Okay, so this is one of these like, this ain't easy. Maybe we can only do 20% better than we're doing now. But what I'm saying is 20% better on this is massively impactful compared to other things you could move by 20%. So it's worth it is my point. So that's the second thing, is pushing the definition of conversion rate or, success down the funnel. That's the second thing. Yep. I got more. If you want more funnel stuff,
give it to me.
Okay. The next one is filtering. I call it channel filtering. Okay. This is kind of like the self-filtering, but this is filtering using the tools of the channel. So like, again, you're used to thinking, how do I get more traffic out of this channel? But you really want less traffic that's higher quality.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you really want. So
Right.
you imagine in keywords, rather than spreading the keywords as much as possible, it's like, well, what are the keywords that go with the highest quality traffic? And maybe I shouldn't be chasing some of those other keywords. Or
Yep.
keyword exclusions. I've had this in my career a lot, where yeah, there's the keyword for something, but it can include a lot of other stuff, and by excluding, again, you're just narrowing or
Yep.
or
Negative
filtering ahead
keywords.
of time, because all of these are effectively filtered ahead of time. Of course, like that's
Yes.
filter out the shit, keep the quality. Like that's
Right.
so these are all different techniques for how do I do that, right? So okay,
Yes.
and also Google has other kinds of audience filtering about like affinities and what market, I don't know, like we don't need to get into
Mm-hmm.
that, right? But you can there's tools and stuff. Also,
Yeah.
which channels, like you mentioned LinkedIn, people go to LinkedIn and they talk about work.
Yep.
So if I'm selling a B2B software, LinkedIn feels like a good place. TikTok doesn't. But there's other kinds of stuff like selling a hoodie that costs $7, where it's probably TikTok and not LinkedIn. So like there's filtering in the channel, but there's also like I shouldn't be in 20 channels. I should be in the channels that make the most sense for me, where
Agreed.
the traffic will be higher quality, even though there
Agreed.
are more, let's say, views in some kind of absolute number. There's like more views to be had on Instagram or something, right? But like those are my views, again, quality, not quantity. So like
Quality.
that, right? So
Yes.
yeah, so that this kind of channel
Yep.
filtering, whether it's which channel or within a channel, how do I, so that
Yep.
kind of filtering is another one. And I'll
Yep.
just give you one more of
Yep.
this channel, this funnel stuff, which
Yep.
is to segment the traffic that comes to the website by the channel. So if I come from LinkedIn, then what? If I come from LinkedIn with this particular ad campaign, then what? And so on. Again,
Yep.
this is not news that we should have landing pages and, or that we should maybe tag things with cookies or use something like Segment.io or whatever. I'm not trying to shill for any company. I don't care. But like, using
Sure.
these things to tag or understand the traffic so that we can be more specific. Now, that doesn't actually increase the quality of the
Mm.
traffic. Like, if you go get a bad campaign and send it to a landing page, then it's bad traffic. Like that didn't actually help. But what it does do is it prevents other landing pages and tests from being poisoned by this bad traffic.
Yep.
So if you have some bad traffic somewhere, okay, but at least it's cordoned off. Hopefully you can figure that out and try to optimize it separately or or stop or whatever you're trying to do. It's cordoned off from the good traffic, so that as you experiment, because of course you're going to experiment, with ads and channels, you have to, right?
Yep.
But as you do that, of course, sometimes you're going to pull in a lot of garbage. You want to keep that garbage away from the not garbage. So while that doesn't totally prevent garbage, you can see how that makes your processes better. And that kind of keys off another point, which I didn't make before, which is okay. But remember I said that it's worse than you think about the garbage traffic? Here's
Yes.
a really cool way that it's worse than you think, which this segmentation solves.
Okay.
This is cool. So let's say you didn't do what I just said. So, the advertising team is told, get more traffic. They're like, okay. And so they go get more traffic. And of course, most of it's garbage because of course, like the low hanging fruit is taken. All right, of course,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
usually worse, right?
Yeah.
So they do. And so more garbage is coming through. But you say, that's okay. My A/B test will filter it out. Here's why that's wrong. Because, okay, I pull in more garbage. Now I'm looking at my A/B test. But all I'm doing is saying, I
Yeah.
want to convert the most amount of whatever's coming in.
Yeah.
But
it's
that
skewed.
means I'm convincing the garbage, because now there's more garbage. The only way for me to make a better, more successful, quote unquote, A/B test in isolation is to appeal to garbage and pass more garbage along to the next step, which is the last thing I want to do.
Right.
It's even more expensive if sales gets to it. It's even more expensive
totally.
if the customer signs up and they're a shitty customer and they bang us in tech support and they leave anyway and leave a bad review. That's even worse, right? The further the
Yes.
garbage gets, the worse and more expensive and all that, right?
Very true.
So the garbage comes in, but the A/B testers are just like, oh, I got to improve this. And so it's just so bad. It's just multiplied by so many people, so much expense, so bad.
Wow.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's why it's even worse than what we were saying before. It's like, oh my gosh, you like realize the extent of the pain, right? So this final thing, this segmentation of the traffic, it helps with this issue. Because if you have a channel that's pretty pretty good, you have A/B tests going, okay, everything's happy. Of course, you're going to experiment with new traffic, and some of that's going to be garbage. Don't put it into those funnels that are working and pollute those A/B tests and break them. Don't do that. Have it over
Right.
here so that these new A/B tests are broken or whatever they are. Right.
Yeah.
Don't pollute it. So it doesn't totally prevent garbage, but preventing it from poisoning things that are working, that is good. That is,
Yes.
that is better than what you were
Yep.
doing before. So it is progress in a certain sense.
Yep.
So although segmentation by itself might be an obvious thing to state, hopefully now it's obvious that, or it's clearer that it's not just like, oh, we can do that because it's more personalized, which is true. But
Sure.
hopefully you can see, oh my gosh, the ramifications are way more than I thought.
Yes.
So it's not just like kind of a good idea. Maybe we should get around to that. It's no. This is huge for you. This is enormous.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a different focus. Like it's like, I can visualize everything you're talking about, like the mindset that's like, you talk about personalization, right? Personalization and everything, like the ad copy, the landing page, the follow-up sequences and everything. But if you make that the focus of how can I hyper personalize for bad traffic, it doesn't matter. So spend more time, be a little bit more patient. It is kind of like the measure twice, cut once rule, right? Spend more time measuring and less time cutting.
It is like that, right? Because you don't realize how those cuts ripple through everything
Yes.
else in the company, and therefore it's just way more costly and powerful than you figured. And it wasn't part of your original funnel diagram, so maybe it was hidden altogether. Much less how important it is, how much of a multiplier that's also hidden it is.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
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 And I can feel the marketers on this call, like kind of feeling a little bit of angst,
Well, and again, the good thing to remember is, it's like, oh my gosh, like what am I, how do I make this so much better? It's not going to be perfect, of course. How would it be perfect? It isn't going to be perfect, but you don't have to. If you shift it a bit, you'll help a lot. So you can roll the angst back a little and go, oh, I just need to improve. It's just, there's so many areas of the company I could improve a little and only get a little benefit. Here's an area I could improve a little bit and get a big benefit. Yay! So your job isn't to be perfect. You could set some sort of vision statement, or right? Like sure, as a directional vision statement, of course, fine. But that's not your goal. That's not your commitment. It's like, no, if you can improve this a bit, it has an enormous impact. So that's why it's worth it.
And that's why, and you know what, I'd love to hear you just kind of like echo this statement. I say this to to people all the time. The tendency is for marketing to view marketing as a destination, but I say no, marketing is a journey, right? It's a journey. You're never going to feel like you've truly arrived because there's so many shifting variables all the time, and so you may feel like your A/B testing funnels, like you've got one that's like really good, it's converting well, but talk about like over the long haul. Like there still requires ongoing measurement and testing and visibility and eyes and like everything to ensure that you keep it that way, right? It's kind of like a plant. You're going to water a plant and it's going to, look green and healthy and, but you still have to watch out for bugs. You have to watch out for weeds. You have to watch out for other stuff that could come and kind of disrupt what you have.
Yeah. I mean, part of that is because the world changes. Markets change, customers' expectations change, your product changes, competitors change, and so forth. And so that's one reason. Another reason is a lot of your A/B testing is false positives. This is another thing that marketers get wrong constantly. Yeah, is you run an A/B test that says B1 with 90% confidence. You're like, great, stop the test, take it, move on. And then what happens is you just keep doing that month after month, week after week, and you keep accumulating them. Yep. 20% better here, 10% better there, just all throughout the year. And you look back at the year and it's like, actually our overall conversion rate has barely moved or hasn't, or it's moved by like 5%. These are supposed to all accumulate. Like we should be 50 or 100% better year over year. And we're just like not that different. Right. And you could, the typical thing people say is, oh, that's because the market changed. But the market did not radically change in 1 year. Right. That's not what happened. What happened is you got tricked by false positives. And I actually have a lot on this topic as well. It's a little harder to just do an audio. I mean, it's possible, but you kind of want to see, like when you get into things like math or whatever, like it's a little harder to do an audio. But the bottom line is there's multiple reasons why most of your A/B tests are false. One is not enough N. Even though the tool says it is not. Another one is when you make repeated tests, even at 95% confidence, that means 5% of the time it gives you false positive, of course, and that's totally fine. But if you run 20 tests, then you're going to get 1 or 2 false positives, and there may only be 1 real positive in there. Right. Like, because most of your tests are not good, right? Most of them don't work, like that.
Yeah.
So if most of them don't work, the noise of the false positives can easily be just as big as the
Yeah.
ones that work. And so literally you get a test that works and it's a coin flip whether it really did work just by repetition. And that's
Yep.
assuming you did the test right with the 95, which you don't, because when the tool says it's 80%, you take it. So actually you're not even doing that right. So that's
Right.
just among the reasons, some of the reasons why, just mathematically,
Yep.
you run all these tests and they're just mostly false positives. And that's why they melt away, because they weren't real.
Yeah. What's the true test between the false positive and the positive?
Well, first of all, you need enough n, and there's a formula for that, or you can use calculators, and you need to adhere to it, and you can't look at the test early, right? So, like, let's say the calculator says, and I can give you a formula for it, but the calculator says you need 20,000 data points or something, right? You're like, okay, but you check in after a week, and there's 10,000 data points, and it says it's like 90% chance that one succeeds. You're like, all right, I don't need to keep running this test. I got it. That is false. There's actually there's a lot of interesting real world examples as well as simulations people run to prove it. Like if you don't believe the math, that's fine. Both real world examples and simulations show at a 95% confidence level, 60% of A/B tests will show 95% confidence somewhere in there before leveling out and saying no, it's not. 60%. Because
Yeah, it's
it
huge.
jiggles around en route to having the right answer with enough n. When n is small or smaller than you think, actually, you can get all kinds of wrong results. So again, I can give you formulas and stuff. It's just harder to like grok that in audio, but yeah, I could do it. I see there's a chat here. Are the false positives result of misspecified problem statement, or is it a flaw in the methodology? So what I'm talking about is the flaw in the methodology. Things like peeking, as it's called, looking in on a test before it's done, not doing enough n, and not realizing that repeated tests necessarily have false positives. Therefore, if you get a test, you have to test it again, because that's how you find out whether it's false or not. And there's other things you can do too, but that's the simplest thing is to do it again. Make sure. But I would say go even further. Like whatever it is that you did, go more extreme, because if it's right, then even more extreme things should be better. So those are some ways to address the methodology. But is it a misspecified problem statement? Yes, that too. In fact, I think that's the deeper issue, is the misspecified problem statement. Because what we do is throw spaghetti at the wall, which is a weird, like, I don't even know where that expression came from. Who does that?
Right. Who does that?
But anyway, we just say like, let's try different ways of saying this headline, and, the Google 41 Shades of Blue and all these kind of things, right? And it's thoughtless. And by the way, if that's what you're doing, you will be replaced by AI, because AI can certainly make up 10 ways of saying the same damn thing and run a test.
Yeah.
You are not needed if that's all you're doing. But also, that's not what you should be doing, because that's just like rolling dice and hoping. And so, of course, you're going to get false positives, because most of that is not real anyway. And whether the test was positive or not, what have you learned? Nothing. You had no idea what you were doing in the first place, and now you still don't have any idea. So what's going on here? You're wasting time is what's going on. So what you do instead, and this person is hinting at it, I think, and correctly so, is what you should be doing is forming hypotheses about what's going on with the visitors or potential customers at this moment. What are they thinking? What do they want? What are they doing? What would be good to do now, and why is that? Hypotheses, because of course you'll be right and wrong. So a hypothesis might be, okay, at this point, since they've looked at this page and they've done this and they're ready to buy. So we should like close down the funnel. We get rid of the menu bars and stuff, right? And like push them through the funnel right now. That's what we should do, because blah, blah, blah. That's be a hypothesis. Another one might be, I think people need to try before they buy. So we should do this whole thing where they try first or get a demo or whatever they do before they buy. That's my hypothesis. Okay. So that's a real hypothesis. Or, okay, people from this channel are interested. They want to build trust with us, not buy. We should not be, this plan, this tier. We should not be saying that at all, because they want to build trust with us. We should be showing them great content with insights. Maybe we shouldn't even have a form to fill out so that they get that trust, because that's what's needed. That would be another hypothesis. So, okay, whatever the hypothesis is, then you say, what could I do to test this hypothesis? And that's the variant you build. And then you use A/B testing to test it. Okay, if it comes back positive, Is your hypothesis proved? No, because we're good Popperians and we know that it is evidence that we might be on the right track. Certainly we should be happy and we should continue down that track. We should repeat the test like I said. We should go further. See, now you know what it means to do it more because you had a hypothesis. You know what more of it means because you know what you're doing instead of random headlines. So you do more of that. You should get an even better result, or at least keep the result if you do more of it. That would now really be evidence that you're on the right track. Or even if it's like a neutral result, you don't have to throw away your hypothesis quite yet. You can say, all right, maybe I didn't nail it, but maybe I'm directionally right, but there's a little shift. They want to build trust, but they don't want to fill out that form. They want to build trust, but it was different topics they want. I don't know. Like you could not give up yet, and but if you tried 8 different ways and it's not working out, now you're actually learning. You know what? That's not what they want. That's a trigger to think, I got to come up with a different hypothesis. Great. See, that's also learning. You weren't doing that before when you were throwing headlines. You just weren't getting anywhere, right? Even 100%. A failed set of tests, you're learning something. Ooh, valuable. Good. Yes. Right? Or if it works, you're learning like, oh, this kind of positioning or this kind of language works. Now you can go put those in ads. Now you can go put that in the product. Now you can put that elsewhere. Like you're learning stuff you can go apply other places. It's so much more valuable and it's more like proved. Even if it's a negative, like the conversions go down. Great, because now you know that hypothesis is wrong. Like it gives you ideas of what could be right. I better, again, like you're able to like redirect perhaps. So I think Chris had it right here. Is it a misspecified like attitude? Yes, it is a misspecified attitude. And also the tools we're using with the confidence and this and that, also we're not kind of doing the math right. We're listening. And it's not our fault. It's the tool's fault. The tool lets us peak. And the tool tells us it's 90%. And we think that's good enough. The tool leads us to believe that. So it's the tool's fault, not the marketer's fault. But nevertheless, the marketer has to get smarter. Right? Like, sorry, but like it's still on you, right? If you want to get to the day. Yeah. So you got to do the math better in those ways, and you want to have like this hypothesis testing, and now you're kicking at. Now you're doing something. Now you're doing website optimization. You're learning about your customers, and again, you can cross apply that elsewhere. So look, we have yet another multiplier or leverage point. Of course, we need testing because testing's how we learn stuff. But now, what was hidden from us is. Like, oh, I thought I was testing. It's like, no, because you didn't have a theory and you weren't even looking at what you were doing right. Like, so like you weren't really getting anywhere. And so you were right that testing is good because of course none of us know right off the bat, of course. So that part was right. But man, we weren't doing it correctly. But if we do, it does become this thing where we can get those website conversions, which is great because it multiplies across every channel at the same time. So that's a multiplier. And then on top of that, again, you can take this learning in like you can almost call that positioning or marketing strategy, almost brand or something, and you can push that into all these things like brand and events and ads and all, social and stuff. Okay, now we're talking. That's starting to sound actually pretty valuable. Good. Yeah.
Yes. Just like practically speaking, would you think about it this way and say, for each funnel, I'm gonna run with one hypothesis and kind of like one theory and approach to problem solution. Do you think about it that way, like one full funnel per hypothesis?
A lot of it depends on how much data you have and how sophisticated you can be. You can run multiple tests, but especially if they're in series, one test might affect another, so that can be very hard unless you have a lot of data and you're sophisticated about how you're looking at the data. I think a lot of people don't have enough data to be too fancy about it. And so, you might want to be testing one hypothesis at a time simply because you don't have enough data to do a whole lot of other things. But if you're testing hypotheses in different places and you don't believe that one will affect another, right, if they're independent, then there's no reason not to do both. Because, again, if they're not interfering with each other, then you're getting some parallelism. So, again, you could do it by segment too, because obviously, like this segment might want this segment might want that. That's very logical, But again, do you have enough N? So, and N's tricky because there isn't just one. It depends on how big of an effect you want to be able to measure. So, if you currently have a 20% conversion rate, to measure a 22% conversion rate, the difference between 20 and 22% requires enormous N. But if you the difference between 20 and 40%, you don't need that much N to know because it's so dramatic. Again, there's calculators, or I could give you a formula that include that. So when I say enough N, I mean relative to what you're doing. I would say though, Always look for big effects. Always go for big effects, not subtle ones. Why? One reason is because big effects are impactful to your freaking business. Subtle ones are not. So that's one reason. And the other reason is you don't need a lot of N to find or to know for sure you've got a big effect. So you don't need as much N to know or know or not know to get a decisive test result. Yeah. And it's kind of the only things that matter. So go for big effects.
Right. So we could almost say like the bigger the hypothesis, like the less N you need. Right. Yeah. So
the bigger the effect that you believe it'll have or that you want to be able to measure, the less N you need. That's right.
Yeah. Really smart. Great way to look at it. You also talked in the article about pricing. Like say a 10% price increase creates 100% profit increase. Yeah. Like everybody screams, raise your prices, right? As if like that just solves everything. But in some cases,
sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it hurts.
So,
So what I would say is, once again, I know this is a theme. This is the point of this podcast episode is this theme of like, there's some areas where small changes have big effects, and sometimes we don't understand, or we haven't seen all of that yet. They're kind of hidden. Okay, so pricing is one of these, where a small change in price can have a very big impact, no matter what, good or bad. Okay, so but that's still it's almost one of these you can't afford not to find out sort of a thing, right? So the typical microeconomics thing that we all know is, if you raise prices, then the number of signups goes down. And then there's this question of like, okay, but if I raise prices by 20%, but the number of signups only goes down 10%, then when I multiply price times people, it'll be better. And so that's good. But it could be the other way around. I might raise prices 20% and signups go down 50%. Oh, no, that doesn't work. Okay. So that's the microeconomics thing. Sometimes that's true. That does happen. That dynamic sometimes works. It works especially if you're in, like, say, a commodity market. That often is the case where like price is the only thing people are competing on. Often that's the case. Not always, though. But what's amazing is how often that is not the case. So often in my both myself with my products and like advising people or just seeing other people, so often there's effects like they raise the price and signups go up. Wait, what? Where they raise the price and signups don't change at all. Yeah, or signups. Actually, literally yesterday, I was on the phone with someone who had built a business that's now at $50 million ARR. And he said, hey, you wrote a blog post 10 years ago about raising your prices and how to do it. Like how? Like how do you communicate with customers? And we did it. And we raised our prices and literally signups didn't change. We doubled our prices and literally signups never changed at all. Just, you'd never know. Doubling pricing, you just never know. So that happens a lot, or even the signups go up. So why would that even happen? Well, first of all, if you don't know, like, isn't that something you need to know? Like, isn't that something about your customers and business that you really like? Is that not incredibly important to know? Right?
Super important.
But one reason, that's not the only reason, but one reason that happens is your price so low that people did not believe your product would work or is trustworthy or has high quality or that you're a real company or that you'd have good tech support, right? Look, cheap products are often bad. So by raising your prices, you don't look like such a cheap product, and then that's better. So that's a reason, a good reason. Like you're like, why would that happen? Aren't the economists right? No, they're not. Economist models only work if a zillion assumptions are all true. Well, sometimes they are, but a lot of times they're not. So don't worry about it. You got to go find out. Right? So here's another funny thing. I remember one time, this was like 15 years ago. I was talking to this founder, and he was telling me about his product, and it was like he was selling to enterprises. And it was stuff like looking at weather patterns and how that would affect their supply chain. And it could save them millions and sometimes even billions of dollars of supply chain disruption. It's like, wow, that sounds great. And I said, what do you charge? And he's like, oh, a lot, like $300. I'm like, $300 a month? That's nothing for enterprise. He goes, no, $300 a year.
How are you still in business?
Right? So I said, okay. I said, listen, try just switching on your website, just instead of saying 300 per month, just try, or instead of saying 300 per year, just try saying 300 per month. So this is a 12x price increase, right?
Massive.
And of course, he did, and nothing changed. signups are the same. The
Oh
12x,
my
right?
God.
So here's what's funny, but here's the follow up that's funny. Okay,
Wow.
so I said, "Wow, what are you going to do?" So of course now he's telling me, "Oh my God, that's so great." Like, yeah, it is great. I said, "What are you going to do now?" And he goes, "Oh my gosh, well, I can hire this person. I can do more marketing." He starts talking about things, and what he never said was, "Well, I should raise prices some more." But of course, that's what you should do. Like, think about what we just said.
Right.
You 12 extra prices and nothing changed. Well, then you still haven't found the right price point, have you?
No friction. Yeah,
No
like
friction. So keep
keep
raising it.
going.
That's
Keep
what you do
going.
next. Is keep raising the goddamn. I mean, also those other things.
Yes.
Keep raising. You're not there yet.
Oh,
You haven't
yes.
hit the microeconomics. Right? So it's just. I know it's an extreme example, and that's fine. But the point being, like,
Wow.
that can happen, and the answer is keep going until you start hitting that actual effect. Now,
That's
another
wild.
thing that can do though is change who your customer is, right? Because like $30 a month versus $3,000 a month, of course, it's a very different customer who's buying that. So
Yeah.
that's another decision you have to make is that the customer base I want? So, I don't know, like there's so many things that go into that. So that's fair. But changing it a little bit, again, going back to a little bit, okay, but changing it by 10%, 20%, that's probably not going to change your entire target market, but it can change your business model. And to prove that, as you just said, the example I gave in the article that you're alluding to is actually very simple. Suppose that a business today is charging $50 a month
Yep.
and netting $5 a month in profit. Okay, $50 and then 10% profit margin. So $50 makes $5. Okay, typical. So now just imagine they raise their price from $50 a month to $55 a month. Okay, now maybe your market's really sensitive and they don't like that, but probably not.
Probably not.
Probably we haven't hit the ceiling, and certainly we haven't totally changed your target market. That's not what's up between $50 a month and $55 a month. Right? That's okay.
You're good.
Right?
You're safe. You're safe.
Right. But since nothing else changed, that extra $5 goes right to profit.
Yeah.
There's no cost, like nothing happened, so it just goes right to the bottom line. So we went from $5 a month profit to $10 a month profit. That's doubling profit. So adding just $5 a month, so increasing price 10%. Doubled profit in this example. Now, obviously, the math is going to be different for everybody, but the point is your profit margin is always, whatever it is. If you increase revenue, profit goes up by a lot more because of that math, right?
Right.
So this explains in math why a small change in price can have a large impact on profit. Whatever your numbers are, that's the case. And so if you can raise prices a little bit and you're in a zone where like that's okay, which you usually are, it can have a massive impact on profit, which in turn means either you can take that money out or, of course, you can spend that money in the business. Either way, it's a huge, wonderful impact, for price. Now, it's possible that you do this and it has a negative effect, right? Okay, you raise prices and okay, it goes down and you don't like that. So, of course, that can happen. But still, again, the learning there is enormous. Like, okay, too bad for you. You couldn't just raise the price. Okay, sorry. But we still learned a lot, so it was worth trying. And we can do something. So, for example, one conclusion. So one thing is about your target market and maybe your competitive set and their attitude toward money, which is very useful. Like maybe you should lower prices and find a way to be more profitable. Maybe that's a good strategy. Maybe your competitors don't know that. Maybe you're all the same price, and if you're $10 cheaper and you figured out how to lower costs so that, right? Maybe that's a great strategy, and you just figured that out. That would be a great revelation if true. So another thing is it could be a wake-up call that your product's not differentiated enough. In other words, well, my product's not different enough, good enough, valuable enough to justify even a little bit more money. Well, I want it to be. I mean, I have pride in my craft and I want it to be more valuable. Maybe it isn't valuable and I need to make it more valuable. Maybe it is more valuable, but the customer doesn't know that and I have to be better at describing it.
True.
Maybe I need to engender a willingness to pay for reasons other than even features. Like they love the fact that I'm a small business and they want to support me and they're willing to pay more. That happens all the time. That guy I just told you about with the $50 million company, that's what happened. He said, hey, I'm a small company, help me out. And they said, okay. So that, you could use that. It could be you have some cause that you some bigger purpose that your company's
Yeah.
about, and so people are willing to do it. But you have to describe that, you have to show that, right? So people
Just
get it.
articulate that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a million different ways. In fact, I have a whole article with enumerating many ways. If you search for willingness to pay, and I maybe Smart Bear or something, you'll find it.
There you go.
And right, and it just enumerates a ton of these ways that why would people pay or pay more. One reason's features, but like, okay, give me like 24 other reasons, just so out of
Yes.
all of those, maybe you pick one or two and do that, and then you can justify certainly just more retention, more value, maybe even higher prices. Maybe, but anyway, again, maybe that's a wake up call that's very strategic for you in general. So even if the price increase didn't work out, it could still be very valuable. So one way or another,
Yep.
twiddling your prices could have a big impact on your business, whether that's a strategic insight or whether that's financially. And so again, it's one of these like, of course, you already knew prices, quote unquote, price is important, and like you knew that, right? So again, it's not about that. It's about like, did you realize just how powerful every single possible outcome of price change is, and therefore how vital it is that you go do it? Because again, the leverage of the multiplication of that is so vast. Did you understand how vast this is? No matter what, you need to go do it, right? Like, I know you kind of got it, but did you get it? Like, it's a little hidden from your view about how powerful this lever, or this multiplier is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so good. And in the pricing, like it reminds me of times where I'm like about to go and maybe cancel a subscription to something, and then they pop up and they're like, lifetime deal, please don't leave,
Yeah.
And like these are all like, but they're good things to measure, right? It is all learning. It's all learning, and it's all just incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway from this conversation is probably that, like the willingness to just, run experiments, just be aggressive in trying to discover what are the levers, right, that you can pull in what way that are going to lead to these exponential returns, because you'll never figure out what they are if you don't just jump out and start doing it.
Well,
Maybe
it's
it is your
hard. Like
price.
some of these things that I just mentioned, like price, I think you get feedback pretty fast, so that's
sure.
good, right?
Yes.
A/B testing, it can be hard. It might take a year to know whether, okay, this time we really did move the needle by 20% over the course of the year, whereas last year we thought we did, but we didn't. That might take a while to find out. Fun stat there. Shopify, there's a guy, I'm sorry that I'm blanking on his name, but he's the VP of growth at Shopify. He has 600 people under him. And he said that they find that 35% of their tests that they run, the effect 35%, which were significant, the effect disappears by the end of the year. And so they measure that the whole time, and that's why they know that. And they're super, super good. Like you can imagine, they're just like incredibly good at doing this. And there's a lot of them. Still, it dissolves away. Still, they find that it a large number of them dissolve away. So that's an example where even the best people in the world, like them, it takes them a year to know, right? So some of these, sadly, it takes a long time to know. So you kind of have to have faith or belief. Okay, I'm going to have faith in like, now I think I'm smarter about running A/B tests. Now I think this math is right. Now I think this approach is right. I'll find out, but it's going to take me so long. Like it's not really faith, because you'll find out later.
Yeah.
It's just the feedback loop's so slow. You need a little bit more of that, right? Whereas price is a little faster, or if you're small, it still might take a little time. If you're bigger than price, price you can get faster. And again, this funnel quality, it's hard. It's hard to measure it. Like again, I'm not saying this stuff is easy. And raising prices is so scary. It takes a lot of courage to do that. Like, I'm not in any way saying this is easy or trivial, or like, in fact, that's part of why I think it's hidden too, is that you're like, oh, I'm scared to raise prices. It's like, okay, right. I get it. I'm not even arguing the point, I'm just saying like, you should do it anyway. Right.
Probably think about it.
Yeah. So like experiment. Yeah. But, it can be hard to tell. So again, if you do have any models of how the company works, maybe looking at those can say where some of these points are. But if not, these are among those things, those areas where typically it does, and there's reasons, as we gave, of why that is. But typically, that's what happens. And so, I know we're done, so we're not going to go into more detail. But but another example would be you have like your best customers that never call support, pay a lot, they're super profitable. You have customers that are horrible, that are dragging your profit down. And if you work on that unprofitable tail, which sometimes means firing the customer, but more often it means working with them about whatever's going on, right?
Right.
You can dramatically improve profitability from just a few customers. And on the head, same thing. You can dramatically improve profitability and how happy it is to be here. And if you can identify what is it about them that's so good, and take that back now into your marketing funnels, and that's what we mean by quality.
Yeah.
There are examples of companies where the founders will tell you, like, it was so hard and we were struggling, and we finally crystallized that, and we just focused all our marketing on that, and we said no to every other customer, and now we're at 10 million ARR, but at like 50% net profit because they're all good. Wow. And we could be at 50 million AR, but not profitable. And so there's tons of stories like that when you focus on those great customers. So the great customers or the worst customers, that's another example of one of these leverage points. Onboarding a brand new customer, because the drop off of retention is so bad at the beginning. So focusing on that part often pays off in spades. In general, bottlenecks, like anytime you have a process and there's a bottleneck, there's a whole theory of bottlenecks. If you know the book, The Goal, that's what that book is about. But you can read things online, not even from me, but you can read things online where people have kind of summarized the points. People do not notice and deal with bottlenecks correctly most of the time, but if you do, again, that can have an enormous impact on throughput. That's the whole idea. So now that's more of an operational thing as opposed to a customer thing, because business has lots of parts.
So guys, thank you for joining. I do this at least once a month, so I'd encourage you guys, if you like these kinds of conversations, be sure to subscribe on Luma. You'll get updates for future events. But guys, thank you, Jason, for just dropping so much value in the conversation today. And man, I thoroughly enjoy. There you go. Go to smartbear.com. Give Jason a follow on LinkedIn, where he's highly active. And I'll tell you guys what I like to do, and I'm going to do this for you guys, is I'm going to send out the transcript from the episode today. Because if you want to personalize this for you, what I like to do is I'll take the transcript and take it over to my custom GPTs, or I'll take it to Claude that knows me, my business, and then I'll say, hey, give me some action steps that I need to take based on this interview with Jason. And you'll find tons of value in that. So that's just a little takeaway. But Jason, thanks, brother.
This was fun. Thanks.
This was awesome. Yes, thank you. All right, peace out, everybody. See you later.